Princess Libersha was your typical villainess, created solely to torment the hero and heroine. In the end, she died after enduring horrific torture for who knows how long. The crown prince even had the audacity to say there was no need to be sad since she was going to die young anyway. Our protagonist felt like throwing up while reading that. Seriously, right? She kept reading, but remained completely incredulous. The story focuses on the love between Lavrov and Ariel, with that innocent appearance that charms everyone. In the end, the villainess is defeated and Ariel gets exactly what she wanted: a happy marriage with the prince. If it had stopped at the wedding, it would have been fine, but everyone dies. Wait, I think we have an Akame ga kill reference here. The villainess dying is one thing, but several important characters died for nothing. The main couple manages to be the worst of them all. Disappointed, she tore the whole book apart, but even that didn't calm her rage. Everything changes when, on a beautiful summer day, our young lady simply wakes up in bed already inside Libersha's body. And damn, Princess Libersha was gorgeous, wasn't she? I don't think I'd turn down the position. She always had a soft spot for Libersha because of her beauty, composure, and dignity. But what really won her over for good was the villainess's last scene in the book. It was that moment when the villainess spoke her final words, stating that she had been a princess since birth and would remain one until she died. Libersha vented that she never had anyone to love her and that people had called her a villainess since the day she was born, even when she did nothing. The blame for all of this lay with her mother, Lijen Vance. Now she is the true villain, the woman who forced her own daughter to suffer everyone's prejudice. It's the kind of painful life that Ariel would never be able to understand. Libersha even dropped some truth. It's better to die as a villainess than to die as a pathetic, sick girl. That's why she did what she did and even found it amusing. At least that way, everyone would know her for her role as a villainess and not for the weakness of her illness. That's right, she was a terminal patient. To top it all off, Libersha said that none of it was because of Ariel, but rather because of her own choices and that she had no regrets. Man, this woman is the real boss. Wow, what a beautiful woman. I want her. And that was exactly when Princess Libersha won over our protagonist. Apparently, the princess has an army of simps just because of that powerful speech. The problem is that our protagonist never actually wanted to become Libersha. Well, too late now. She is at a point in the story where there are only 3 months left before the original romance begins, in the year Ariel turns 19. And it was on this morning that she woke up occupying the princess's body. Her memories of her previous life are all blurred, but at least she remembers that she isn't the real Libersha. She remembers how she died and also all the details of the original romance. The most obvious fact was her appearance. What a stunning woman! The protagonist, who never thought she was anything special, you just needed to dress up, girl, now boasts impeccable platinum hair and mysterious purple eyes. But then the bad vibes hit. So beautiful, so young, and already going to die? No way, not even a single date before the end? Not to mention the torture part, how horrific. She thinks about avoiding the torture route, but what if she ends up dying anyway? It seems time is the greatest enemy here. Desperate, she throws herself onto the bed and starts crying, trying to find a solution, but the only thing she managed to do was spend the entire week crying. That's when, in a dream, she finds herself face to face with Libersha herself. Shocked and filled with admiration, she can hardly believe her eyes and even asks if she is really Unnai Libersha. But Libersha, short and blunt, just asks, "Why the hell would I be your Unnai?" She tells the protagonist to forget that and pay attention. Libersha came to explain the disease. There is no cure, and the only thing to do is ease the pain with medicine. The protagonist finds it strange because she isn't feeling any pain. But the explanation is clear. She only doesn't feel pain because she isn't the rightful owner of that body. The true nature of the disease comes from the soul, and that is why it is incurable. It was for this exact reason that Libersha called her there for that conversation. Libersha didn't choose the young woman for no reason. It was because she had read the book and, by a stroke of luck or bad luck, died at the exact right moment. A perfect combination of factors. Naturally, the girl is radiant to get a second chance and even chat with her idol in person. Libersha herself agrees she got lucky since, unlike the original villainess, the protagonist won't die from that illness. Since Libercia's ailment affected the soul, now that the soul has changed, the body has a chance. The young woman breathes a sigh of relief, but wait, there's a catch. She's going to cough up a bit of blood. Nothing major, right? Libercia explains that she needs to recover the memories left in the body, and until she finds them, the damage to her soul will make her spit up blood. There are 100 memories in chronological order, so if she finds one every 3 days, everything will be fine. Why is Libercia acting like a villain right now? And she still smiles like it's the cutest thing in the world. Well, she is beautiful, isn't she? You can't deny that. Shaking like a leaf, the girl asks if it's safe to keep coughing up blood every 3 days. Libercia's response? Who knows? The plan is to hang in there for a year until the soul and body become one. In the meantime, her health will be trash. In other words, instead of dying from the illness, she runs the risk of dying from coughing up so much blood. Great, just wonderful. Realizing the girl's terror, Libercia does her the favor of programming one memory to appear on its own every 3 days, giving her time to hunt for the extras. Beautifully dangerous, this woman. Even with this grim scenario, the young woman looks at her with sparkling eyes and asks how her words can be so sexy and cold at the same time. We have an official fangirl here, folks. Even Libercia wonders how someone like this ended up in this situation. Meeting the villainess in the flesh was much better than in the book. Now the protagonist is more obsessed than ever. Then comes the dilemma: what to do with this new life? Revenge? Since the original Libercia suffered horribly, the thought is fair. But the protagonist doesn't feel all that hatred, mostly because she likes several other characters in the story. Everyone except that main couple, of course. The original Libercia, however, wants nothing to do with revenge. She makes it clear. The one who decides the future now is the young woman. It's her life. To start, she returns the memories of the original story that the girl already knew, all in chronological order. Libercia says her goodbyes and wishes her luck. The girl wakes up grateful for this dream that felt so real with her idol and accepts the challenge. Just knowing the death route is gone makes her feel refreshed. It's time to get up and get to work. She knows that if the villainess leaves the stage, everything changes. And honestly, running into that couple would be a nightmare. This Lavrov guy is a crazy bastard, and the new Libercia senses the danger from a mile away, even though she's no longer the villain of the story. So, the plan is to focus on what she really wants, meeting all the characters she already loved from afar. The original story only begins on the country's anniversary, 3 months from now. Since Libercia's mother keeps spreading horrible rumors about her, the people are already afraid of the princess, but she doesn't care. She's leaving that place in 3 months anyway, so to hell with the rumors. There's still the problem of Lavrov, the prince who thinks he owns everything that belongs to him. To avoid provoking the madman, she decides to give up her succession to the imperial throne. With this plan, she hopes to be free to travel and meet people during these 3 months, while also fixing the tragedies of the past. Ariel's story begins when she goes to the capital, but the central point is that the male protagonist is an obsessive piece of work. Because of Ariel's kindness, a lot of people were attracted to her and ended up becoming targets of Lavrov's fury and jealousy. Eugene de Volton was one of those victims and is on the new Libercia's interest list. He fell in love with Ariel and confessed to being Libercia's spy, but ended up falling into a trap set by Lavrov and died. Duke Cain de Iric was another who tried to protect the heroine, but because of the prince's sickly jealousy, he ended up losing an arm and all his honor. And the guild master, Harris, who knew about Lavrov's trap but loved Ariel so much that he protected her until his last breath. I have a feeling these 3 are going to fall for Libercia now, huh? Not even the women escaped. Ivienna, Ariel's best friend, had to give up her dreams and her love. Jane, the maid saved by the heroine, also had a tragic fate and died for her. Even the final villain, Daniel, was a victim. He lost his best friend, Harris, because of this whole mess. No wonder the guy became a villain. It seems the whole world was sacrificed just so Ariel could shine. But now that the new Libercia is in charge, she's not going to let this slide. Before the main plot even begins, she's going to pull some strings to ensure that everyone, including herself, has a much better life. She reincarnated into this world without a single regret from her past life, and now that she's here, she isn't going to let anyone defeat her without a fight. She knows she has the power to change the entire course of this story. Lavrov and Ariel can love each other all they want, but did they really have to kill Libersha in the process? Not to mention all the others. Talk about overkill. While drawing a mental map to architect her plan, she decides it would be a total waste of time to try and get between the main couple. Daniel, the one who's friends with the side characters and the leader of an assassin organization, lost his importance in the plot way too fast, didn't he? The curious thing is that the only detail ever revealed about him is his hair color. He was the sole survivor of a country destroyed by the Empire. Maybe he'll be hard to save. Oh, come on, new Libersha, focus on him. I think he'd be a perfect match for you. With that in mind, she decides to put the Daniel case on hold for now. Since she is already connected to the other characters at this point in the story, she knows she'll eventually run into them sooner or later, and she intends to make the most of those encounters. I see you, you little rascal. During this transition period, the maids Linny and Aaron, along with the head maid Emma, haven't taken their eyes off her. After all, the poor thing almost lost her mind when she was ripped from her previous life and tossed in there. Emma was quick to assign the two of them to care exclusively for the princess. They were truly worried, and the new Libersha feels genuine gratitude for that. As soon as the maids leave, a heavy dizziness hits her. It's the effects of the old illness trying to adjust to the new soul. In the past, the original Libersha was so weak she could barely hold a teacup or stand for long without shaking all over. Even so, the original Villainess never gave up on what she wanted. Talk about willpower, right? The problem is that these symptoms have now been passed down to our protagonist. This nasty anemia could end up ruining her plans, so her only choice is to find a doctor ASAP. Luckily, there's a specialist at the palace. When she pops up at the infirmary, the doctor almost falls over in surprise, asking if she's feeling unwell. Based on his face, the old Libersha never set foot in there, probably to keep anyone from finding out she was sick. But for the new Libersha, the secret is out. She gets straight to the point. She wants a full, precise exam, like an MRI. In this world, technology is magic-based and requires a doctor who is an expert in mana. He agrees to do it, but asks her to list all her symptoms. Her answer is short and blunt: constant fatigue and the tiny detail of coughing up blood. The doctor is in shock, and she shows her stained hand. She had just recovered a memory, and of course, the blood came with it. Even without truly trusting anyone, she knows she can't solve this alone and needs professional help. The doctor then begins the preparations. The exam will take half the day. He begins using magic to scan her body. The protagonist is still hoping she won't just be stuck taking painkillers and that she'll find an immediate solution to this chaos. When Libersha finally wakes up and asks for the results, the atmosphere gets weird. The doctor goes to the door, closes everything, and even wraps a chain around the latch. What is this man doing? Frightened, she watches him walk toward her. But to her surprise, the doctor calls her Your Highness, kneels, and asks, with all the respect in the world, how she is feeling at that moment. What on earth did he find out? How have you been enduring this? The doctor asks. Libersha is completely clueless, but his shock isn't even about the physical pain, it's about how long she's been carrying this disease. The real name of this little beauty is Raphaelis, or the Angel's Doll. The doctor starts quoting some poem by Delaware, mentioning that on the day of the Winter Queen's visit, blue roses bloomed from the mountain all the way to the palace. Poetic, right? But the situation is tense. Libersha, however, can only smile with a face that says, "Who even is Delaware?" Since she arrived in this world only a week ago, she has no clue what the doctor is talking about or what this culture means. She's more lost than a blind man in a shootout. The doctor stands up, horrified, explaining that her illness is exactly the one from the poem. Libersha, practical as ever, cuts the drama. She just wants to fix her anemic state so she can actually do something. The doctor's brain glitches since the disease has no known cure. She insists she needs any medicine that will keep her stable, even if just for a short time, because right now she can't even hold a teacup without looking like she's going to fall apart. The man remembers something that might work, but almost no one uses it. Libersha already figures that if it only has 1 or 2 uses, she'll keep this ace up her sleeve for her final reckoning with the Emperor. And the medicine is none other than Black Death snake venom. The doctor grabs the doses from the cabinet and explains the catch. One dose keeps her stable for 30 minutes, but the side effect is a heavy, long sleep afterward. Oh, and if she takes it 3 times, what was benign becomes malignant and her body is toast. A toast to danger. And what does Libersha do? She accepts it, super hyped. The doctor even hesitates. He only mentioned this method because she's the only one who seems able to stand up to the symptoms, but he makes it clear he doesn't think it's a safe path. She doesn't care. She wants the doses and that's it. The doctor falls to his knees in despair, repeating that the disease is incurable. Libersha sees his terror and thinks, "Look, I'm not going to kill you just because there's no cure, relax." Is her villainous reputation really that bad? The poor guy sobs, calling himself useless, and she has to calm him down, reminding him that he's already helped a lot. But his crying isn't out of fear of her, it's out of pity. He explains that Raphael's is, in reality, a curse. You can treat the pain, but it never goes away. And here's the macabre detail. The only thing known is that a blue rose grows on the grave of whoever dies from it. How morbid, yikes. He thought he was going to be executed for giving her the news. After all, the rumors about the princess are horrific, and she was acting strangely to him. The doctor created a whole horror movie in his head, but then realized he was dead wrong about her. He always tried to treat everyone equally, but he noticed that despite Libersha's icy face and cold words, what she said was pure comfort. Even as she agreed to take venom, he saw a change. Her voice, though nervous, sounded kind. That's when it clicked for him. She already knows her fate. How can someone be so sweet while facing the end? Seeing that determination in the princess's eyes, the doctor felt the weight of the years of sadness she carries, or that he thinks she carries. He decides he's going to go crazy if he has to, but he will discover a real cure. He's going to flip through every book on this curse. She's just gained a powerful ally. Back to Libersha's plan, the arsenal is ready. Poison pills in her pocket and supplements to replace the lost blood. She already pops 1 pill to get the ball rolling. The goal now is the emperor. She needs to give up her right to the throne because Prince Lavrov is the type who doesn't forgive anyone who touches his things. What an obsessive piece of work, seriously. Libersha's real urge is to slap him across the face and be happy. It would be the greatest satisfaction of her life. The problem is that the only one who can stand up to Lavrov is Daniel. The emperor overlooks everything the prince does, so Libersha knows her only chance for peace is to mind her own business. That's why, before traveling, she wants to officially register her renunciation of the throne. Otherwise, that lunatic will hunt her down out of pure greed. She already has plan B and C. If the renunciation doesn't work, she'll just borrow some gold from the palace. And if all else fails, she'll simply steal all the treasures that Ariel wasn't supposed to discover for another 10 years. An easy life guaranteed, right? We sure hope so. Wait a minute. You've watched this far and still haven't liked or subscribed? Come on, my dear, give me a hand. Like and subscribe to win a cookie. And so, Libersha finally goes to face the emperor and introduces herself. He starts right off by commenting that her voice remains as cold as ever, 0 surprises there. Without beating around the bush, the man asks immediately what she wants. Straight to the point, just like she remembered. Then she drops the bombshell. She's here to renounce the throne. The emperor actually trembles and asks her to repeat herself. And she repeats it, perfectly calm, just waiting for him to accept it once and for all and leave her in peace. Except the emperor thinks it's a trick. Do you plan to rely only on your mother's power? He asks. It's something to think about, but the truth is the old Libersha never wanted to depend on family for anything. Her mother was a piece of work, managing to push every other family member out of politics, which left Libersha as a princess with almost no power at all. But Libersha doesn't back down. She stands her ground and throws out a logical argument. If she leaves the race, it only benefits his own son, Lavrov. Why on earth is the man refusing? Since he brought up her mother, Libersha uses her ace up her sleeve. She warns him that he doesn't need to worry about the maternal side of the family because that lineage ends with her. The man jumps up, startled, wanting to know why she's saying that. That's when she drops the truth. Her days are numbered. Totally incredulous, he asks what the plan behind this is and what the other part of the deal is. But there is no other part. The man is being way too cautious, and she knows it would be a shame to demand anything, especially from him. She suggests that if he doesn't believe in the illness, he should ask the doctor. He says he'll do exactly that, but warns her not to expect anything from him. Says the man who has never even spoken his own daughter's name, she thinks. What a grade A father, right? She explains that she just wants her freedom, but he says that's nonsense. She fires back, saying she's even going to leave the imperial palace. The emperor takes another hit. Abandon the throne and the residence? He asks. Well, obviously. The girl wants to travel the world and enjoy herself, not rot away in that boring palace. Why do this? He insists. And she tells him straight. In the time she has left, she only desires to be free. The emperor, still reluctant, says they will finish this conversation the next day. That didn't go too badly. Now she just has to wait for his call. In the meantime, Libercia has become super close with the servants Rinny and Aaron. They are sweethearts and helped a lot when she wanted to learn more about the world. It's all very cute until Libercia chokes on her own blood. This disease is intense. It doesn't give her a minute of peace. She ends up remembering when the old Libercia was only 2 years old, unbelievably cute. Time passes, and she returns to the emperor's room. Prepared for anything, she walks in. The emperor has already confirmed the whole story with the doctor. Now that he sees she wasn't lying, he actually seems a bit sad. He goes back to the subject of the renunciation and suggests she ask for more than just retiring. But she reinforces, freedom is the ultimate goal. She wants to be far away from political marriages and wants to live in the open air, feeling the sound of the breeze. The emperor finally gives his royal permission, but only for half of the request. Now, Libercia is out of the race for the throne, but she must remain part of the imperial family and live as a princess in the palace. Uh-oh, we're in trouble. Now, how is she supposed to travel the world like that? Libercia can hardly believe what she's hearing. This scenario wasn't in any of her 3 foolproof plans. The emperor continues his speech and says he's even willing to drop a political marriage, but the right to the throne? Oh, he's not having that. He wants her to wait a whole additional year. Are you kidding me? Only after 365 days could she supposedly do whatever she wants. Man, what a son of a... 3 months was bearable, but a year. Libercia thinks of the obvious. She has an incurable disease that isn't going away. The guy has already seen the medical report and knows her life expectancy is only 2 years. In the end, not a single one of her plans worked. And that trash emperor still has the audacity to look away. Libercia is fuming at this attitude. Is he seriously ignoring her? She tries to take a deep breath, calm down, and come up with another proposal, but the man won't even let her speak. Unlike the reception a few days ago, this time she was kicked out of the room in a pathetic way. Later, there is His Majesty sitting among his papers, remembering Libercia and the blood he saw in her mouth. He starts rambling about the medical certificate and how that Raffles, the curse of the soul, is so impactful. He thinks about the doctor trying to find a cure that doesn't exist and reflects that he couldn't get rid of the princess. The reason? Because after his wife died, only his son Lavrov remained in his heart. He even justifies that the princess was a girl who didn't even know how to express herself properly, and that she was the living image of her mother, Villainess, known as the most wicked woman of her time. Hold on a second. Did I hear that right? Just because the family is powerful and the mother was bad, it was impossible to love her with all his heart. The guy simply decided she wasn't important. The imperial family really isn't winning any awards for affection. When he learned about the disease, he realized that Libercia could no longer maintain that barrier from before. At first, his plan was to accept the request for freedom since he saw benefits in it. But at the last second, his selfishness spoke louder and he didn't grant it. Libercia is only 19 and knows she only has 2 left. Her daily struggle must be terrible. And holy crap, the girl is his daughter. Only now, with her dying, is he starting to actually see his own child. Wow, what a great dad. 0 out of 10. Don't be like this, people. He keeps dwelling on her request for freedom and remembering that blue roses grow on the graves of the victims of this disease, the flowers of souls. The thought of a young woman who hasn't even reached 21 talking about her own death with such naturalness kept pounding in his head all day. The emperor stands up and starts philosophizing. If she wants to leave so badly, it's because the palace was a place of pain. He deduces she was cold and arrogant because of loneliness. Then comes the excuse. He says her wish is madness because she has many enemies, and without the title, no one could protect her. Oh, now you're thinking about protection, Mr. Father? He feels as if he's trying to save the pieces of something that broke a long time ago. Yeah, no kidding. You woke up too late. He thinks that fulfilling her wishes would be best, but his fear is the guilt on his conscience. If she goes away with only memories of being abandoned, he will feel guilty. Damn it. So you're keeping her prisoner out of pure selfishness just so you can feel better. He admits that he didn't let her go because of his stupid selfishness. At least he's honest in his own shittiness. He feels an internal need to fix this now, but even he agrees he's a trash father. You can say that again. Meanwhile, the original work starts showing Ariel's childhood. She was overprotected by her father, the Duke, living in a safe and boring-as-hell village. The girl's only pleasure was a teddy bear named Elizabeth. But every now and then, a boy her age would show up to play, Lavrov. Ever since he was 10, this kid would visit her and already dropped that line of someone who isn't right in the head. Ariel, would you be mine? The poor thing, naive and innocent, said yes, thinking he was asking, would you be my friend? Little did she know. Her innocent laughter left Lavrov very satisfied. Cut to the next chapter. Ariel is now 18 and will debut in society at an international gathering. That's where a certain someone she hadn't seen in 15 years appears. In that moment, she discovers that the boy from the village was Prince Lavrov. And at that moment, she also became a walking landmine, our Libersha comments. The maids Rinny and Aaron are totally confused. What are you talking about, Your Highness? The two are very good to her, and Libersha quickly changes the subject, asking what to do when someone opens a door full of problems. The maid's answer is spot on. You have to run, even if it's hard. She even asks if the princess is talking about a bad marriage. Rinny is about to turn 15 and is already at the age to have a fiancé. Meanwhile, after that frustrating meeting with the emperor, Libersha locked herself in her room to review her new plan and try not to go completely insane. Her mental sanity is hanging by a thread with this 1-year delay. Despite all the chaos, Libersha feels like she's finally earned the respect of Aaron, one of her maids. While having tea, she lays all her cards on the table. The problem has grown much bigger than expected. If she simply runs away in 3 months, she'll be penniless and still have a death sentence on her back. Leaving for medical reasons is an option, but she'd have to give up everything. Having that crazy prince breathing down her neck would be hell on earth, wouldn't it? Lavrov is the type who breathes spilled blood. Libersha would love the pleasure of rubbing the renunciation papers in his face. Imagine how epic that scene would be. But being realistic, she knows that's not going to happen. Right now, she has 2 options. Either go to a care home, which sounds like a total bore, or follow the second option, which could be very easily misunderstood, but she's certain it's the right path. And who is this option? None other than Daniel. The man mocks the empire to its face and vanishes without a trace. He is simply more powerful than Lavrov in every possible way. In the original work, Daniel goes somewhere far away, and everyone thinks peace has finally reigned just because he's seen as a sort of demon. But the truth is, he truly cares about his own people. Libersha thinks that if she can get close to him, she'd be safe and sound in those arms. Ooh, Lady Libersha, I see exactly where you're going with this plan. There's just one detail. Daniel is the official villain of the story, a walking danger who leads an assassin's guild. And to top it off, she doesn't even know what his face looks like. The biggest danger is that Daniel hates everything associated with the empire, so Libersha runs the risk of becoming a target just for having royal blood. Aaron thinks the idea is difficult but likes the boldness. She says that if the answer is right, things will work themselves out with patience. So, it's decided. The best bet is Daniel. The goal now is to get close to the villain and become engaged. Oops, friends. Friends, of course. Libersha stands up and thanks the maids, leaving both of them in shock. They've never seen the princess be so lovely. She even pets them like they're little kittens. How cute, honestly. The next day, she notices a detail. It's going to take a full year for the old Libersha's memories to return completely. The one that came back today was her at 3 years old. She was already stunning as a toddler, a total cutie, but her personality was already powerful. A respectable mini villainess. our protagonist goes out to the balcony, admiring how beautiful her life is now. Her unknowns memories are returning, and she's already decided on her future. Time for some fun. She wants to see her favorite characters happy, since she always liked them more than the boring protagonists anyway. It's infuriating to think that in the book, these incredible characters ended up hurt, dreamless, or dead all because of their love for Ariel. Honestly, is Ariel not the real villain here? Everyone was murdered by the prince's obsession, and she did nothing but apologize. "I'm sorry, but thank you." "Oh, please, I hate this girl already. She must be just as sadistic as that crazy prince." So, Libercia decides, it's time to start planting the seeds of happiness in the hearts of those who died unfairly. She's super hyped for this rescue mission. The first target is Eugene de Bolton, the badass knight who stood out even without the McNahan family name. Now he's being reinstated to the palace guards, and because of the rumors, he detests Libercia. He thought she was cold, which is why he fell for Ariel's opposite act. So dumb. In the beginning, he kept his distance, but his affection for Ariel led him straight into the prince's trap. Eugene had a dream, and Libercia has decided she's going to help him. Honestly, Ariel is so bland compared to our Libercia. If I were one of the extras, I'd already be on one knee asking for her hand in marriage. She knows Eugene wants to finish his time at the palace and then wander the world freely. Libercia reaches her destination and knocks on the door. Since he's the one who believes the rumors the most, she wants to show him a totally different reality. Who knows, they might become allies, or boyfriend and girlfriend. When he opens the door, our girl is stunned. Her eyes sparkle at the young man's beauty as he says, "Good morning." She can hardly look away from that silver hair and those red lips. In person, the guy is a total showstopper, way better than in the book. He asks what she wants, and Libercia, wasting no time, grabs his hand. Eugene is startled, not understanding a thing, while she just says thank you. She looks him right in the eye and repeats, "Thank you for being here." Imagine the knot that just tied in the poor guy's head. Now Libercia is dead set. She is going to spend these 3 months in the palace, and she's going to spend them with him. Poor Eugene is incredulous, asking what the hell she's talking about. While she tries to keep it together so he doesn't think she's a total lunatic, Libercia asks if he has any free time today. She says she wants to go somewhere and wants him to be her personal escort. The palace is a giant white elephant, full of corners to explore. She thinks that spending time together might create some good memories, and who knows, maybe make Eugene stop looking at her like she's the boogeyman. The young man tilts his head, totally confused, and asks, "Why ask me when you could simply order me?" Libercia, sharp as a tack, fires back instantly. She could order him, yes, but she knows he already hates her. He's startled by her sincerity. "I don't want to offend you anymore," she continues. She makes it clear that it's a request, not an obligation, and asks if he can spare a bit of his time. He puts his hand to his chin to think, and our Libercia almost melts right then and there. Careful not to slip on your own drool, Libercia-san. He asks what she would do if he refused, since there are other escorts. She confesses that if he doesn't go, she'll simply give up, go away, and pout. Yes, there are other guards, but he's the best. She just doesn't want to force him into anything. He lets out a sweet smile and comments, "You just said I hate you, yet you say if it's not me, you won't go." Those two sentences contradict each other and are quite heartbreaking. Look at that, the ice is starting to melt. Libercia is nearly blinded by the radiant light this man emanates. She's used to beautiful people, but he's on another level. Eugene finally gives in, saying that after a confession like that, he couldn't possibly deny the request. He bows all gentlemanlike and asks where the boss wants to go. Libercia celebrates internally. Victory! She leads the way, showing the path, while Eugene reflects on life. He's only in that palace because of the Duke of Eric and with the sole goal of getting stronger. His plan was for Libercia to disappear from his sight as soon as possible, but things are taking a very different turn. Remembering her thanking him in that specific way, he clenches his fist and finds the situation funny. She already knew he hated her. He doesn't understand what her game is, but he decides he's going to play along to see where this leads. When it's time to leave, the maids go on the attack. They say the palace is a labyrinth and that Rinny should go along just to be safe. Libercia denies it immediately. She wants to go only with Eugene. The maids are in shock. "That ill-mannered manipulator?" Rinny asks. Libersha just confirms it, perfectly calm. Our blonde says she'll be fine because she's the one who chose him, and she intends to have fun. She's got the map in hand and warns, she's not going to let Eugene be rude to her, no way. The maids can only sigh and accept their boss's madness. And off she goes, happy as a clam for the stroll. Arriving at the location, she's admired by the scenery, the plants, and the sky in perfect harmony. But then she notices that Emma was right. The place is a bit tricky. She shows the map to Eugene, and he asks if the maid was the one who drew it. At least it looks easy to follow. Eugene, curious as ever, asks why she chose this spot. He asks her to be sincere and not come at him with that, because you please me talk. Libersha, with no filter, responds that he shouldn't overthink it, as it's out of pure personal taste. "What does that mean?" he asks, his brain glitching. She stares at him for a moment and ends up coughing, her body demanding its due, as always. To hide it, she changes the subject and announces, "We're here." Eugene looks at her more confused than ever. What does this woman want with me? Must be the only thing going through the poor guy's head right now. The wind blows softly as the two lovebirds look at each other in silence. Observing him closely, Libersha notices that Eugene is almost like a wild cat, or rather, he resembles a wolf. Noticing her persistent stare, he questions her about what she is looking at so intently. Libersha quickly shifts her gaze and changes the subject, praising the lush green environment around them, which is notoriously beautiful and much more welcoming than she had ever imagined. Eugene asks if she really finds the place cozy. Libersha promptly responds that the space is as beautiful as a treasure island, leaving the young man confused by the analogy. To her, that scenery is truly precious if someone pays proper attention to it, resembling a secret island. She notices a nice spot nearby under the canopy of a tree, ideal for resting a bit in the shade of the leaves. Eugene mutters to himself, questioning what she actually intends to do there. Next, he guides Libersha to stand up for a moment, warning her that she will get dirty if she sits directly on the ground. Even though they had already settled in, she obeys and stands up. Eugene then pulls a handkerchief from his own pocket and carefully spreads it out over the lawn. This action triggers a jolt in Libersha's heart, and she even brings her hands to her mouth, deeply surprised by the young man's sudden gentlemanly behavior. Eugene, not understanding her reaction, asks the reason for that gesture. She, in turn, jokes that she is almost feeling sick again in the face of so much radiance. "Even my screen's brightness cranked up over here. What was that all about?" Libersha smiles and confesses that she was just very impressed by the thoughtfulness of the gesture, admitting that he pleases her very much. The young man rambles for a moment, wondering to himself if he had really done something so attentive. Changing direction, he expresses his desire for her to answer his questions. Libersha invites him to sit beside her to chat and offers her own handkerchief in return. However, he turns away and politely refuses, arguing that he isn't a young lady to be needing that. Libersha starts the conversation by explaining that she has been avoiding seeing the people at the palace lately. Since everyone was saying they wanted to leave, she simply consented, saying that if it was their wish, they could go. Eugene questions her about what she would do if he asked for something similar, and she responds that she would never stand in the way of his freedom. The young man inquires if she came all the way out here just to tell him that, and she confirms it, confessing that her chest would ache if she didn't. Eugene hesitates for a moment and drops the direct question, is it because she likes him? She flatly states that yes, she does, to which he, flashing a smile, responds that he hates her. Libersha says she already knows that and doesn't mind, reinforcing that she keeps liking him even despite his disdain. Eugene is temporarily left speechless, and shortly after, asks if she wants to head back. Libersha takes the opportunity to question his motive for coming to the palace in the first place. He explains that he made this decision because the empire is full of powerful people. In reality, Eugene is a member of the imperial palace, but he was currently enjoying his vacation. In the original story, he returns to the palace because of Ariel and with the goal of stopping the original Libersha. On top of that, there was an extremely strong man he desperately wanted to meet, that Duke of Irek guy, Cain. It was precisely this dynamic that the Crown Prince, Lavrov, took advantage of. He utilized the existing differences between Eugene and Cain to make them face each other in a fatal duel. The clash had no winner. One of them lost his honor and an arm, while the other lost his very life. Libersha asks what Eugene intends to do when he finally encounters someone truly powerful. The young man responds, as if it were obvious, that he would compete with him, guaranteeing that he wouldn't refuse the challenge even if one of them might die in the process. Libersha confesses that she doesn't want to go back just yet. She simply wishes to observe him a little longer before he ends up tied to some side, since he always seems deeply frustrated to her. He lets out a laugh upon realizing he is being observed so closely. Libersha declares her support for him, wishing that he finds this powerful person soon so he can finally feel satisfied. Then, she stands up, gathers the handkerchief, and mentions that she will take it with her to return it washed in a few days. The man bursts out laughing and asks if she is already done using the object. The girl gets completely confused, wondering to herself if she said something wrong or if she should have just thrown the handkerchief away, since she only sat on it. After all, a princess doing laundry isn't exactly a common sight to see. Eugene downplays the situation, saying it's nothing, while wiping a tear from the corner of his eye from laughing so hard. The two start making their way back, and Libersha reflects to herself that her heart could never be at peace after interacting with such a beautiful man. During this same period, Libersha's doctor relentlessly hunts for a cure or solution for his lady's illness. However, all the colleagues he asks for advice recommend that he merely pretend to be looking for something, claiming that no amount of effort would do any good. Faced with such apathy, the doctor can barely believe that these individuals are considered the greatest physicians in the empire. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a young assistant who exclaims that he has found it. The anxious doctor questions what he is talking about and orders him to spit it out and tell him what he discovered already. Meanwhile, the boy silently ponders the princess's reputation, recalling how everyone paints her as someone cold and wicked. The doctor immediately snaps, ordering his assistant to be extremely careful with his words. He questions how the young man dares to refer to Her Highness in such a manner, especially after confirming her diagnosis. The doctor recalls just how lovely Libersha was and how she even smiled at him at the end of her appointment. The boy, who goes by the name of Ripley and sports a rather scruffy appearance, looks visibly confused by that reaction. Over the course of his career, the experienced physician has delivered terminal diagnoses to many members of the nobility. However, Her Highness Libersha is only 19 years old, which makes him wonder how no one had managed to notice her health condition before. Ripley sincerely apologizes for failing to understand the gravity of the situation and adds that, while he isn't entirely sure, maybe he can help somehow. He flashes a green-covered book and starts talking about the Duke of Eric, Kane. Ripley explains that he accidentally overheard a conversation the other day. According to what he heard, the Trojan is not necessarily a fruit itself, but perhaps a flower. The young man admits that confirming the absolute truth of the information is beyond his reach, but that was the exact conclusion the Duke of Eric reached. This mysterious Trojan fruit has been seen only 3 times in the entire world, and those occasions shared a very specific pattern in common. The first common thread is that a black-haired person was always very close to achieving success. The second point is that an intensely sweet aroma usually blankets the entire area before the fruit finally appears. Even though such details sound like made-up stories, Ripley doesn't dismiss the account, given that witnesses described a scent capable of flooding an entire region. Focusing on these clues, the young man concentrated his research on the Duke of Eric's territory, identifying the location as the most suspicious of all. Among herbalists, the Trojan fruit is considered the true elixir of life. The doctor is floored by the discovery, realizing he might have finally found a possible solution for the princess. Faced with this, he ponders whether he should pay the Duke a visit. Ripley confirms he should, but drops a warning for the doctor to be extremely careful, as countless rumors circulate through the region claiming that Duke Kane is actually a descendant of demons. Even though he is aware of the rumors, the doctor thanks Ripley immensely for the investigation. With this new information, he feels he can finally, in fact, help the princess. The entire conversation between the two, however, was being closely watched by one of the local herbalists. Upon overhearing the dialogue, She ends up discovering both the princess's terminal illness and the existence of the Trojan fruit, catching herself wondering if the emperor's daughter is really about to kick the bucket for good. Duke Kane represented the perfect contrast to Eugene, a man with deeply black hair and eyes. His sharp eyes seemed to carry a long history, while his fine features, combined with extremely pale skin, gave him the appearance of a vampire. He was widely described as a direct and cold person. He was someone Libisha could easily run into due to her status, but someone who would be very difficult to interact with. To top it off, the Duke was constantly tormented by a severe trauma from his past. Later on, Libisha and Eugene meet up again around the palace grounds. The young man confesses he was tired of staying in the same place and decided to take a walk. Libisha smiles at him and continues her stroll, but is suddenly hit by a wave of severe dizziness that almost sends her crashing to the ground. Eugene gets startled by the scene, and she tries to reassure him by saying she is just feeling a little weak, to which he reacts with clear worry. At that exact moment, she feels hit by a total arrow of passion, thinking she is going to end up fainting if things keep going like this. Eugene questions her once more if she is truly all right, and she confirms she is. Despite her positive answer, the young man makes no effort to hide his apprehension. Gently, he slides his hand onto her shoulder, making Libisha's heart almost leap out of her chest. She wonders how it's even possible to stay calm with a man like that right by her side. Eugene pulls her closer, offering support to help her walk. Sensing the urgent need to divert his focus and change the subject, she pulls out his handkerchief, which had already been properly washed and ironed. Eugene is shocked by the gesture and even turns his face away out of pure embarrassment. Trying to compose himself, he asks if she knows anything regarding the Duke of Eric, mentioning that local rumors usually call him the Knight of Shadows. Libisha's expression upon hearing that is priceless, as she already knows exactly what is going through the young man's mind. However, she explains that it is difficult to go out alone, given that the royal family only has access to a few specific places. Eugene questions her about the meaning behind that statement, while part of his face flushes visibly red. Libisha finds it truly hilarious how he pretends not to get the hint. She then openly responds that she wishes to go out accompanied by someone, pointing to Eugene as an excellent candidate for the job. When asked what he thought of the idea, he accepts the invitation immediately. It is glaringly obvious that the new Libisha's plans worked perfectly, as he appears to be completely head over heels for her now. The two begin walking together and decide to visit Kane's quarters. The Duke's pavilion was located right on the other side of the Imperial Palace Library, a restricted area where only individuals holding royal authority have permission to enter. The very existence of that space was something totally unknown even to Eugene. Taking advantage of the moment's proximity, Libisha asks for permission to ask him a question. In that same instant, the girl blushes intensely as she is flooded by various intrusive thoughts, like a strong urge to touch Eugene's muscles or simply hold his hands, while also feeling incredibly embarrassed, thinking she might be annoying him. That's when she gets an idea and asks if he could stay by her side until the long-sleeve season finally arrives. Eugene gets confused, trying to figure out if he understood the request correctly. Libisha calculates that by the time it's time for her to leave the palace, the season will already be at the beginning of winter, a time when all dresses happen to be long-sleeved. Still uncertain, he merely repeats the word, questioning her about the sleeves. She wonders if she ended up being too hasty with her words and tries to mask the act immediately, justifying that she just got a bit carried away because of how insanely handsome he is. She trembles while trying to regain her composure and adds that after the visit to the Duke, Eugene will leave, reinforcing that he shouldn't feel pressured in any way. Since she knows she only has 1 year left to live, she recognizes she acted on impulse. Shuri understands she needs to focus firmly on her main objective, even though she knows she won't give up on winning the young man over. It was a request without thinking, Libisha continued, trying to justify her previous words. Eugene remains completely silent, showing that he is deep in thought over what he just heard, while the young woman is overcome by a profound sense of embarrassment at her own audacity. Breaking the silence, Eugene bows formally before her. "As you wish, my highness." The young man seems to have completely surrendered to the princess's charms. Libisha thanks him immediately, radiant and marveled by his beauty. Although she hadn't expected such a quick positive response, she definitely chalks the moment up as a major victory. Showing her joy, she skips away and grabs the doorknob to Kane's quarters, remembering just in time that the Duke absolutely detests the sound of knocking. However, as she quietly cracks the door open, she stumbles upon an unexpected scene. Her very own doctor is inside, kneeling on the floor, fervently begging Kane for the Trojan fruit. Faced with the desperate plea, Kane merely lets out a cold laugh. Libisha watches the scene intrigued, wondering what on earth the doctor is doing in a place like that. The physician, for his part, apologizes to the Duke for the audacity of his request, but adds firmly that he is acting strictly for the well-being of Her Highness. Behind her, Eugene shows curiosity about what is going on and leans in to peer inside the room as well. The doctor continues his explanation and openly reveals the gravity of the situation, mentioning the disease afflicting the princess, the curse of Raffles. Upon hearing the name of the illness, Eugene turns abruptly, completely blindsided by the revelation, while Libisha loses herself in thought, moved by her doctor's genuine kindness in seeking an alternative to save her. Kane takes the floor and questions the doctor, wanting to know why he believed he would find the Trojan fruit in the Duke's possession. At that exact moment, the young woman feels a sharp jolt in her chest, falling into deep admiration for Kane. She catches herself questioning what that feeling is and why she is enjoying observing the nobleman so much. She reflects on how the Duke is an attractive man, just as much as Eugene, yet possesses a far more mysterious aura, resembling a unique and majestic rose. Libisha feels a literal shiver as she mentally describes him as someone extremely elegant and enigmatic, concluding that he is a clear example of reality outdoing any fiction. With that, the doctor stands up, accidentally blocking the princess's view. He pushes forward with his search and asks directly if Kane possesses at least a single specimen of the fruit. The Duke, however, states he has nothing of what the doctor desires and dryly orders him to leave the premises. Libisha gets startled and backs away from the door immediately, realizing that Kane seems to have noticed a strange presence in the air. At the same time, Eugene grinds his teeth as he glares at the Duke of Erech, who also happens to be his ultimate rival. Meanwhile, Libisha focuses her entire attention on the beauty of both men, turning completely red at the situation. Eugene takes the initiative, steps in front of her, and shuts the door to the room once and for all. She questions him about the reason behind that action, internally fearing she might have crossed the line with her indiscretion. That's when Eugene approaches and gently touches her shoulder. Without warning, he simply sweeps her up into his arms in a decisive manner. The girl freezes, her face just inches from his, wondering why on earth he did that. Showing extreme boldness, she even lightly caresses him. Eugene, maintaining his composure, explains that he noticed she had hurt her ankle during the walkover. Libisha is surprised by the statement, as she hadn't even realized she was injured. The young man reinforces that she can lean on him if the position becomes uncomfortable, leaving her confused, though she is soaking up every single second of the moment. She lowers her head so he won't see her smile with satisfaction, and the two finally leave the vicinity of the Duke's quarters, with Libisha enjoying the situation to the absolute fullest. Eugene breaks the silence to warn her that he won't ask if she's all right, and that he'll also pretend he didn't hear a single thing from that conversation inside. The sunlight outside suddenly turns intense. Libisha partially covers her face to shield herself from the brightness while admiring the smile of the young man carrying her. Faced with so much gentlemanly behavior, she begins to ponder the possibility of extending her stay at the palace for another week, or who knows, maybe abandoning the idea of leaving altogether. She confesses she is truly surprised by his attitude, but notices that Eugene's expression changes, turning somewhat disheartened. Worried, she wonders if she might be too heavy. Libisha comments that since they are close to their destination, she could just walk the rest of the way on her own. However, Eugene insists on carrying her for a few more meters. He asks if she has any other requests to make, and she, trembling and hesitant, answers only that she doesn't. Deep down, Libisha's true desire was to ask him to never leave, but she knows she could never vocalize that. Eugene was always described in the stories as a suspicious man who was reluctant when it came to women, likely expecting her to take advantage of her royal authority over him. Thinking about this, an excellent idea pops into the princess's mind. As the two finally reach their destination, Eugene, showing a slight hesitation in his posture, asks her to answer one final question. "Could you take my hand?" Eugene then sets her down slowly and gently onto the grassy ground and extends his hand toward her, offering support. Libercia, however, goes completely static, standing there stiff as a board in the face of the gesture. Eugene is perplexed by her hesitation and asks if she really isn't going to take his hand. It's at this exact moment that Libercia begins to understand the real reason behind all the suspicion the young man had been showing earlier. She makes sure to clear up the situation right away, explaining that she has no hidden motives with him and that her true desire is to build a sincere friendship with Eugene. The young man is momentarily dazed by the declaration, but finds himself surprised by the honesty shown by the woman. He then grips Libercia's hand firmly and makes a solemn promise, guaranteeing that even in the future, and even if she doesn't ask, he will protect her. The knight emphasizes that, at least as long as he remains at the palace, he will make this his duty. Libercia is completely floored by the declaration and wonders if that was a formal oath. She decides she is definitely not throwing away an opportunity like that and accepts the commitment on the spot, expressing immense gratitude to the young man. He flashes a smile and responds that there is absolutely no need to thank him. After all, acting this way is his own choice. In the presence of that radiant smile, Libercia internally acknowledges that today was a truly difficult day for the stability of her heart. Throughout his entire life, Eugene had grown accustomed to being favored and flattered by the people around him, even if unconsciously. Hearing confessions about other people's romantic feelings was a regular part of his routine, yet quite annoying, since he had never done anything to make those affections blossom in the first place. However, Libercia's expressions were entirely different. He couldn't explain why, but he could feel a genuine truth in her words. He brings to mind their very first meeting, recalling how Libercia had made her complete lack of interest in him crystal clear. The young man tries to find answers to understand why she changed so much during the time she spent by his side. Libercia seemed much more relaxed, perhaps due to the sharp contrast with the arrogant attitude she used to adopt before. Eugene remembers when he questioned her if, from then on, she would send for him every time she wanted to go out, earning a simple and casual yes as a response. That reaction caught him off guard. He realized that her determination seemed sincere and pure, a feeling that could never be born from a wicked heart like the rumors floating around the palace insisted on suggesting. Even so, as a precaution, he chose to keep his guard up. Most people desired him in a carnal way, not giving a single damn about who the real Eugene was beyond his body or his attractive looks. Initially, he thought Libercia would act the exact same way. However, every answer given by the princess frustrated his expectations and biases. When she finally verbalized that she was interested in his companionship and his true self, he understood that she wasn't being driven by mere infatuation or shallow desire. Because of this, all of his worries vanished, leaving him wondering if the rumors had always been false or if the princess had suddenly changed. Of one thing, however, he is absolutely certain: her feelings are strangely pure. Now, he feels that, for the first time in his life, staying on high alert was an unnecessary measure. Although he knew he had never been capable of being just friends with a woman, the idea of building this bond now didn't seem so bad to him. Night falls, and Kane remains in his quarters reflecting deeply on everything the doctor had said earlier. He keeps staring at the half-open door while tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the desk. In his musings, he remembers Raphael's, the terrible curse of the soul, and notes that the doctor must be truly desperate for a cure. However, it seems that during the doctor's visit, the exact thing he was trying hardest to avoid happened anyway. Kane remembers seeing Libercia peeking into the room and concludes that she now knows about her own terminal condition, something she was never supposed to find out. He thinks about her behavior and notices that the way she was spying looked nothing like the Ice Princess portrayed in the rumors. It was even possible to notice a smile on her face while she was spying. Kane also recalls how the young woman's expression changed drastically, turning sad upon hearing the doctor's grave words. Unable to concentrate, he stands up and slams his hand against the desk, starting to flip through some papers right after. He reflects that even if Libersha already knew of her tragic fate, it would be very difficult to fake normalcy when death is so close. He ponders for a second if the situation could be reversed, but quickly discards the thought. At that exact moment, Eugene suddenly appears on the scene, questioning if the Duke has no intention of returning. Kane interrupts him and asks who he is. The newcomer formally introduces himself, given that this is their first official meeting. Eugene steps closer and comments that the rumors are real, as it is indeed a difficult task to hold a conversation with Kane. The white-haired young man questions the Duke regarding the doctor, demanding as much information about him as possible. Kane, however, fires back saying that Eugene can look for him himself, since the doctor is part of the palace staff and Eugene resides there too. Kane muses aloud about the strangeness of the situation, pointing out that first came the doctor and now this man shows up, questioning the reason for so much interest. Eugene firmly responds that this search is his duty. After all, he is her knight. Kane thinks he is probably speaking the truth and says that won't be enough while searching for papers on the desk. He grabs a briefcase while thinking that the best way to keep a secret like this would be to accept death itself. But now, it is already spreading through the palace. Eugene grows tense, but Kane calms him down. The doctor had stated that only the necessary people know. However, he does not believe Libersha intends to keep hiding it. Eugene then bows to Kane and takes his leave. Kane sees that Eugene is someone very easy to read in every possible way. Furthermore, the rumors he heard about the knight do not seem to have any foundation. After all, it is completely futile to detest someone based on an image created by gossip. He sees no reason not to help, but worries about the rumors spreading since the princess is ultimately on the verge of death. It all started when a maid mentioned that the princess wanted to stop living, and it got distorted like a game of telephone. Man, they should kick that maid out. And so, like all gossip, practically everything that was said was a lie. They even claimed it is contagious. In the blink of an eye, the rumors spread like wildfire inside the palace. Silently, they consumed the entire place. Meanwhile, Libersha is daydreaming about how good her day was. The poor thing doesn't even know about the wildfire of gossip surrounding her. When she wakes up the next day, her body feels incredibly heavy. Just then, Aaron rushes in, asking if Libersha is feeling well. She says she woke up looking pale and wouldn't stir when they called her name. On top of that, she had fainted several times before. While Libersha is plunged into doubt, Aaron runs off to call the doctor. The doctor enters the princess's bedroom whimpering. Libersha tells him there is no reason for him to demand so much of himself like that. She then asks what happened, believing she was just exhausted and ended up sleeping all day. However, both the doctor and Aaron look very downcast at her words. The doctor then explains that due to a severe shock, her body will not function properly. Shock? Libersha wonders. She thinks to herself that it might be because she saw too many handsome men on the same day. The physician tells her not to exert herself mentally, but there is only one truth. And the truth is that she went into shock after seeing two handsome men. The maid and the doctor stand completely frozen. Aaron even turns bright red, while the doctor tells her there is no need to lie in such a manner. But right then, Eugene appears, stating that it is the truth. He even offers a wink with a smile. While Libersha wonders about the reason for the wink, the doctor remains skeptical. Aaron, on the other hand, looks furious. Regardless, Eugene confirms it, stating that he and the princess were together the previous day. This time, even Libersha freezes. Aaron rushes over and covers Libersha's eyes while the doctor is left speechless. The blonde-haired girl turns completely red, wondering, does he really believe he is helping me? She begins to tremble with embarrassment, making Aaron worry. She sees how genuinely concerned the three of them are, so she must calm them down. Libersha then asks to be left to rest for a bit, for at least a day. She also mentions that Eugene's attractiveness is far too extravagant and that if she suffers another shock, she doesn't know what will happen. The others then leave the room, telling her to rest well. However, Aaron keeps a sharp eye on Eugene. Haha, I like her. The young man bows to the princess, states that he will take his leave, and closes the door. Libusha is left sitting there blank-faced. Suddenly, she ducks under her blanket. She starts kicking her legs, laughing so hard out of pure nerves and embarrassment that she even begins to cry. As Eugene, Aaron, and the doctor distance themselves from the young woman's room, they hear her energetic laughter inside. Aaron asks Eugene if he is going to leave, to which he replies not yet. She then asks if it is true that he was with the princess the entire day. The two lock eyes in a tense standoff while the doctor fears what might happen right there. Eugene, however, simply smiles. A few days later, Libusha is tucked away in her bed, thinking about how she spent 2 whole days convincing the doctor to take better care of himself and that searching for a cure wasn't necessary. Perhaps now she can finally be carefree, spending her time eating and sleeping like a cat. Suddenly, she thinks she is hallucinating, believing she heard Eugene's voice nearby. That is when he speaks again, causing her to bolt upright in a massive fright. Why did he come at the end of the afternoon? She wonders. Eugene continues to stare at her while she gives him a blank look. It is then that she notices his gaze has darkened. He remarks that the princess's condition seems to have worsened and turns to call the doctor. She begs him to wait and shows him the medicine bottle prescribed by the doctor, assuring him there is no need to worry. Eugene, however, does not think he can trust that. Feeling awkward, Libusha thanks him, saying she appreciates him being just as beautiful on the inside as he is on the outside. At this, Eugene is left with a completely blank expression. Libusha then inquires about what brought him there, and he asks if his visit bothers her. Libusha explains that she does not want to seem like a burden to him. "A burden? Do you say that because I will be leaving soon?" he asks in return. Hesitant, she confirms it. Libusha wants Eugene to wrap up his business with Cain and leave the palace before the official story begins. The young man understands and apologizes for bothering her, but Libusha assures him she is grateful for his visit. In the kitchen, food bubbles away as a delicious aroma spreads throughout the hall. Rinny arrives excitedly, asking Chief Cook Theo about Her Highness's meal. The cook asks what happened to Aaron, since she was always the one who came by. The girl feels frustrated, assuming he thinks she is clumsy. However, that is not the reason. Rumors are circulating that anyone who displeases the princess vanishes. It has reached a point where even the imperial knights are terrified of Libusha. Rinny, however, recalls already making a few small mistakes around the princess. She remembers stepping on her dress one day, an accident that repeated itself a few days later. Theo is absolutely stunned. He begins to speak, but Rinny cuts in, saying she already knows she needs to be more careful because the princess herself told her so. Theo looks horrified. In Rinny's eyes, though, the rumors are completely blown out of proportion. Ever since her birth, Libusha had always shown herself to be cold and cruel, yet Rinny has never witnessed what the rumors claim. Despite everything, she was assigned as the princess's maid, and even when she messed up the simplest tasks, Libusha always showed patience and never got angry. Following this, the gossip began, and Rinny wonders if Libusha herself even knows about it. She has already shared her thoughts with Aaron, and now knows she should only believe what she sees with her own eyes. Aaron tells Rinny to always give her best for the princess, though that was already her plan. Theo asks what she is talking about, but it is now time to deliver the food. She states that Princess Libusha truly pleases her and is indeed a good person, whispering to him that he does not need to worry. Theo, however, mentions that he cannot hear her, making Rinny turn bright red. Waving her arms wildly, she changes the subject, telling him to hurry up with the food. Rinny notices that today's food portion looks smaller, but Theo cannot say why since he merely follows the instructions. Rinny concludes that Libusha must eat very little because she is such a good person, an angel incarnate. Later, Libusha comments on how hard Rinny has worked. Overjoyed, Rinny says she is entirely at her service. As the maid takes charge of clearing the dishes, Eugene suddenly appears and praises the girl. Eugene continued to visit the palace over the following days, always arriving right when it was time for Libusha to take her medicine. Aw man, they are so cute. Despite still keeping his distance, he has become much friendlier. A prime example of this is when Libusha expresses her affection for him. Her jokes about her own beauty aren't very good at all, haha, but he is incredibly handsome, so it doesn't really matter, right? Thanks to him, she didn't get bored during her treatment. He remarks on how the atmosphere in the palace has been improving, perhaps due to the reduction in staff. One only has to look around to see that people no longer feel uncomfortable. Libersha is delighted to hear about this improvement. Perhaps this is her opportunity to rid herself of the unfounded image created by the rumors. If she plays her cards right, this could be a fresh start. Eugene takes the teacup from her hand, and as she looks at him, she turns bright red, concluding that she might end up dying of something else entirely. Eugene then remarks that this change in scenery must be due to a change in the princess herself. Eugene then suggests a renewal of their arrangement. Libersha is stunned, wondering why he wants to stay there and suffer. He replies, "Because my heart was touched." At this, she nearly faints, completely melting. Realizing she let herself get carried away again, she tries to relax and cool her head. She sighs and tries to ask a question, but she ends up stuttering like crazy. Eugene looks downcast, assuming from her reaction that a renewal isn't possible. Instantly, Libersha sees no reason to give a negative answer and expresses how deeply grateful she is for his desire to stay. Well, there was no way she could win against that face of his, right? Libersha then asks if he won't get tired of being bound to her by the oath. He tells her not to place so much importance on it, as it will only be for a single year. Oh, things just got complicated. She had planned to leave the palace in 3 months. Regardless, by order of the emperor, she will have to stay. Will the story change if he remains by her side? She then considers the idea of taking both Emma, the head maid, and her escort, Eugene, with her. Thus, she extends her hand and accepts his new offer of renewal with a bright smile, saying, "Of course, when I heard that you wanted to protect me, I couldn't help but blush." Oh my goodness, how adorable. At that moment, Eugene is stunned to hear Libersha start coughing right after she finishes speaking. He watches as crimson flows down her mouth. Blood. She quickly turns away and tells him it would be best for him to retire for the day. Perplexed and alarmed, Eugene decides to call the doctor, but Libersha refuses. Eugene insists, pointing out that she just coughed up blood. However, Libersha is resolute and commands him to leave. Frustrated, Eugene clenches his fist. Libersha reassures him that this happens regularly and is nothing serious. She asks him to pretend he didn't see anything, insisting everything is fine. Eugene falls silent for a moment. He then asks if she needs anything. She replies that she needs nothing, only for him to take his leave for today. He responds with a cold, simple, yes. Night falls and Libersha curls up under her blankets as a new memory arrives. It is yet another memory from Libersha's childhood. She regrets that she still hasn't been able to hear her voice in these memories, but wishes she could take a photograph of every single one of them. But she saw her run through a wide, grassy field. She didn't make a single childish sound, but she ran like never before. Just like an angel, she thinks. Turning her thoughts back to her plan, she realizes that when she leaves the palace, she will definitely need to bring someone along besides Eugene, though Cain is completely out of the question. She finds him caring, but he is still a duke. Compared to the other characters, the chances of Prince Lavrov killing him are much lower. However, if he ends up falling for Ariel like in the original plot, things could end badly, so she ought to help him avoid that outcome. She just needs to ensure he avoids hearing those words from her. Ariel's words were hardly impressive, but the exact moment he heard them, he fell in love with her. If Libersha prevents that moment from happening, even if he still grows to like her for other traits, his love would be a little less painful this time, and he wouldn't end up losing an arm either. In her room, the princess reflects on the destiny of the characters. She ponders that if she can manage to prevent certain events, Cain's love for the original female protagonist, Ariel, will be a bit less painful, and the crown prince won't be quite so severe with him. She evaluates whether she should bring Harris over to her side. Harris, the leader of an information guild and the third male lead, was a peculiar character who pursued Ariel solely to see her cry. Although he seemed invincible, he ultimately sacrificed his own life for her. The princess concludes that if she can decrease his interactions with Ariel, he will survive. Since Harris is friends with Daniel, Libersha plans to warn him if things get dangerous, imagining herself saying that Harris will die if he keeps meeting with Ariel. Next, she analyzes the situations of Ivian and Jane. Ivian gave up her feelings for the crown prince and her dream of leading a merchant guild for the sake of her friendship with Ariel. Meanwhile, Jane ended up dying from poison in the female protagonist's place. Deeply moved by their tragedies, the princess decides that after saving Jane, she will invite her to leave with her. She throws herself onto the bed excitedly. Since her isolation period ends the very next day, she decides that her first mission will be to help Eugene and Kine become friends. In the palace courtyard, the servants chat and laugh happily, making it evident that the atmosphere in the place has drastically changed. The newly arrived Eugene approaches the palace housekeeper. He apologizes for interrupting her duties and asks if anything noteworthy has happened recently in the residence, explaining that he is asking because he will be taking over his guarding duties that day. The housekeeper replies that nothing has happened. She adds that even if something had occurred, she wouldn't repeat it to others. Smiling, she suggests that since he is now the one in charge of the princess's security, he should observe and draw his own conclusions, expressing her wish that Her Highness is in good hands. Sir Volton walks through the corridors and notices that the housekeeper is extremely loyal and discreet when it comes to her mistress. He approves of her stance, thinking that is exactly how things ought to be. However, he recalls with concern the moment the princess suddenly coughed up blood. When he used his mana to evaluate her condition, he was shocked by the severity of her health. He is impressed by the fact that she acts with such indifference despite the pain being unbearable, suspecting there might be another issue besides the Raffles disease. He feels relieved that she accepted his return and decides to hurry to start working with rocks. Determined to do everything he can to protect the princess, Eugene bursts through the door calling for Rox, but is surprised by a group gathered in the room. Rox greets him with relief, saying he arrived at the perfect time. Sir Volton notices that Kine and Ripley are also in the room and questions what everyone is doing there without an invitation. Rox explains they were just about to call him. Sir Volton asks Kine if he is on vacation from his company, mentally commenting that he didn't even know a work-focused man like him took time off. Sir Volton is suspicious of Kine's intentions, questioning why he would care so much about helping the princess when he barely knows her. He theorizes whether Kine is more meddlesome than he appears, or if he harbors some resentment against the current crown prince. Focusing on the objective, Sir Volton announces that he gathered the group to find a cure for the princess's illness and presents the two options they have so far. The first of these is a suggestion from Kine to mitigate the sickness. Kine explains that he can freely move and use the mana from his own body. Rox and Ripley are impressed, comparing the ability to the holy power used by priests. Eugene analyzes the situation and notes that his own mana possesses a light property, while Kine's is clearly based on dark attributes. He deduces that Kine is proposing a combination of their magic. Kine confirms this, confident that this rare union will create a special synergy capable of finding a solution much faster than they imagined. Meanwhile, in her quarters, the princess laments the fact that she hasn't seen her handsome men for 2 whole days. She complains dramatically that Eugene returned to his duties and questions if nobody needs her anymore. Now that made me laugh. Suddenly, a shout echoes down the corridor. The maids are startled to hear Theo's voice, severely reprimanding the maid Linny for baking cookies late at night, warning her about the risks of a fire in the kitchen. The princess remembers that she had asked Linny to teach her the recipe the night before. Realizing the confusion is her fault, she leaves the room accompanied by another maid, who warns her that the path is clear, but tells her to be careful with the dangerous objects in the kitchen. Theo orders that, from that moment on, someone else take charge of the duties, but the princess interrupts him. She takes the responsibility, confessing that she forced Linny to teach her how to cook last night. She apologizes and begs Theo not to scold the employee, promising to be more careful. Theo is left speechless before the princess. Feeling guilty about the whole situation, the princess decides to take action. Instead of staying locked away waiting, she resolves that she will go out to look for the boys on her own, taking Linny with her. The princess walks hurriedly through the corridors in search of the boys, but she cannot find them anywhere. Suddenly, a voice interrupts her, calling out, "Your Highness." Recognizing Eugene's voice, the princess turns around, only to go into complete shock upon finding him and Kine together. Faced with the simultaneous presence of 2 such handsome men, she begins to stagger, feeling as though she might faint from sheer emotion. Alarmed, the two quickly step forward, and Sir Volton catches her firmly by the shoulders to prevent her fall, begging her to be careful and asking if she is hurt. Still trembling from their charm, the princess assures them she is fine. Trying to regain her composure, she turns to Kyne and asks what he and Sir Volton were doing together, commenting that it was quite difficult to find them. Kyne replies that he is there to help her and asks her to accompany them. As she walks alongside them, the princess finds the situation very bizarre. She recalls that Kyne had previously refused to help her and grows pensive upon noticing that he is blushing slightly while looking away. She remembers him as someone shy in the original story, but begins to think she was wrong about his temperament. Seeing Kyne's awkward expression, the princess internally melts, finding it adorable that even he has a shy side. Next, she focuses on the fact that he used the plural them when asking her to come along. She reflects that in the original version of the book, Kyne and Eugene would never form a partnership, as they were absolute opposites who clashed even without the interference of the crown prince. Seeing the two ignoring their differences to help her makes her wonder if this is just a whim of theirs. To break the silence, she mentions to Kyne that she heard he requested a vacation from work. Kyne confirms the time off and asks if there is an issue. The princess panics internally, remembering that he was supposed to save his first-ever vacation to spend it with Ariel, the original female protagonist, not with her. Disguising her surprise, she simply replies that she never imagined he would do something like that. Noticing her perplexed look, Kyne gives a soft sigh and says he knows very well what a vacation is, asking her not to look at him that way. The princess is unsure whether he is joking or wants her to comfort him. Suddenly, Eugene cannot contain himself and lets out a loud laugh beside them. Annoyed by the laughter, Kyne complains that Eugene is exaggerating. Eugene defends himself by saying Kyne seemed like the type of person who would never take a day off in his life. Seeing the relaxed interaction and playful teasing between the two, the princess smiles with relief, realizing they have already become friends on their own. Joining in on the fun, she reassures Kyne that she didn't mean to offend him and was only teasing. The princess asks what they have been up to all this time, and they reveal they found a way to slow down the progression of her illness. She already expected Eugene's help, but is intrigued by Kyne's attitude. He tells her not to worry, guaranteeing that the medicine they prepared will not cause any side effects. Intrigued, Sir Volton takes the floor and asks Kyne directly why he is offering help to someone he barely knows. Kyne looks at the princess and recalls the day they met, pointing out that although she looked desolate at that moment, she did not display any fear. The princess is left confused, wondering if there was something that should have frightened her. She questions if he is referring to the day she stood paralyzed by his beauty and concludes that, while he is terrifyingly handsome, there was no reason to panic. Kyne continues his line of reasoning and drops a bombshell. He says he thought the princess should consider the possibility of taking the empire's throne. The princess falls into complete internal despair. She imagines the crown prince discovering this conversation and executing her for treason on charges of coveting the throne. Terrified by the thought of being killed, she decides to reject the proposal immediately, making it clear that such a thing is totally out of the question. Taking a firm stance, she declares to Kyne that her only dream is to live a free life, and though she is grateful for their support, she does not wish for the future he mentioned. She reinforces that the rumors about her are true. She has no interest in the throne, nor is she worthy of it. Kyne accepts the answer with a nod of his head, but adds a however. The princess's heart races with anxiety. He explains that, from his perspective, she possesses leadership qualities that far surpass those demonstrated by the current crown prince. Amidst her shock, Kyne concludes by saying that if she lacks the desire, there is nothing to be done, but expresses his wish for her to become powerful enough to keep the crown prince in check. The princess tries to reason if he acted this way in the original book, feeling that something is very wrong. She tries to argue, stating she doesn't plan to stay there for long, but Kyne interrupts her, asking her to consider the idea until then. Seeing his persistence, Eugene intervenes sharply, saying that is enough. The atmosphere in the corridor turns heavy and tense. Realizing he crossed the line, Kine lowers his head, apologizes for being so direct, and asks the princess to forget his words. Relieved to end the subject, she replies that it is fine and hopes the mood has lightened up. The princess suggests they continue on their way, and both agree, following behind her. However, that conversation leaves an absolute certainty in the protagonist's mind. She concludes that Kine deeply despises the crown prince, to the point of exposing his hostility so openly and directly, something he had never done in the book's original story. Man, this is getting more and more interesting. Lacks the desire, there is nothing to be done, but expresses his wish for her to become powerful enough to keep the crown prince in check. The princess tries to reason if he acted this way in the original book, feeling that something is very wrong. She tries to argue, stating she doesn't plan to stay there for long, but Kine interrupts her, asking her to consider the idea until then. Seeing his persistence, Eugene intervenes sharply, saying that is enough. The atmosphere in the corridor turns heavy and tense. Realizing he crossed the line, Kine lowers his head, apologizes for being so direct, and asks the princess to forget his words. Relieved to end the subject, she replies that it is fine and hopes the mood has lightened up. The princess suggests they continue on their way, and both agree, following behind her. However, that conversation leaves an absolute certainty in the protagonist's mind. She concludes that Kine deeply despises the crown prince, to the point of exposing his hostility so openly and directly, something he had never done in the book's original story. Man, this is getting more and more interesting. Upon entering the medicine room, the princess, Sir Volton, and Kine find a stranger along with Rox. The man formally introduces himself as Ripley, Rox's colleague, and a professional herbalist. The princess replies that the pleasure is all hers to meet him. Ripley hands over a large quantity of medicine and mentions he will store it in a bag to make transportation easier. He then begins a lengthy, academic explanation, but in the middle of it, Libercia ends up coughing up blood again. Suddenly, another rush of memories floods her mind right then and there. She panics upon remembering that this is already the third day of the cycle. Feeling the impact, she staggers, but is caught by Eugene. She thanks him for his quick assistance. Trying to brush off what happened, the princess assures everyone she is fine and asks Ripley to continue his explanation. Ripley and Rox begin to whisper to each other, deeply impressed by her posture. Later, Libercia finally manages to access the new memory. She gets thrilled to hear the voice of the original Libercia as a child, at 6 years old. In the memory, the little girl asks Emma about a package that has just arrived. Emma explains that it is a gift delivered to celebrate the princess's birthday. Delighted by how cute little Libercia is, the protagonist reads the card attached to the gift, which wishes her a happy 6th birthday and is signed by Dante Vannis. The young woman recognizes the surname Vannis as belonging to the maternal side of the princess's family. She recalls that after Lysian Vannis's death, Libercia had lost all contact with her mother's relatives, concluding that they still maintained communication when she was little. In the memory, Libercia happily asks Emma to bring some paper so she can write a reply. The protagonist is deeply moved to see the child's face light up, but laments knowing that this joy will change drastically in the future. She knows the day will come when Libercia will cough up blood and discover her own illness. Although she acknowledges that receiving this memory will be painful, she decides she won't feel sorry for her, as she knows the true Libercia would reject any kind of pity. Instead of mourning her fate, she decides to focus on making the most of every moment to love the character and appreciate everything she received by taking over that body. Shifting the focus of her thoughts, she assesses that the relationship between Kine and Eugene has improved considerably compared to the original book. She decides the moment is perfect to try and solve Kine's personal issues. That marks the 18th day since her arrival. She plans to meet with Kine more often to help him be happy, only hoping that he gives up on the idea of making her take the throne. On a day with pleasant weather, Sir Volton walks through the gardens, thinking about inviting the princess for a stroll. Right at that moment, she appears and greets him with a good morning, suggesting a morning walk. He readily accepts the invitation. The princess suggests they visit the royal library. Sir Volton agrees and comments that they should take the opportunity to drag out a certain someone who is locked up inside. Once at the entrance of the royal library, the princess teases Sir Volton, asking if he doesn't feel grateful to have her as his master for securing the entry pass. With a smirk, he fires back saying she doesn't need to brag over a simple permission. The princess notices he is much friendlier and decides to ignore his cheeky tone, amused by his personality. They begin to walk through the corridors and rows of books looking for Kine. Since they don't see him anywhere, the princess wonders if he might have returned to his office, though she finds it unlikely since he is on leave. Suddenly, she spots him hidden away in an isolated corner. Seeing Kine totally absorbed in his reading, the princess is struck by his beauty. Sir Volton asks what's wrong, but she signals for him to be quiet. Sensing a feeling of déjà vu from the situation, she begins to back away slowly. Eugene grabs her arm and questions where she is going, reminding her that she was specifically looking for the Duke. The princess whispers back, saying he looks very busy and it's best not to disturb him. She justifies that the purpose of a vacation is to do whatever one wants, and that it would be horrible to interfere, though what she truly wants is to preserve the image of him looking like an angel while reading. Eugene just glares at her suspiciously. He notices Kine's relaxed countenance and comments that he has never acted like this before, especially in the original story. The princess feels happy to note that Kine is distancing himself from his tragic fate and gets ready to resume her walk with Sir Volton. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupts them. They turn around in surprise and find themselves face to face with Kine himself. Kine reveals that he noticed the princess and Sir Volton's presence in the library when they were backing away. Libercia explains that she wanted to invite him for a stroll because of the beautiful weather and apologizes in case they disturbed him. Kine gets flustered and blushes at her reasoning, assuring her that they didn't disturb him at all. The princess takes the opportunity to officially invite him to join her and Eugene on their walk, insisting that he make the most of his vacation. Kine politely accepts. During the walk, the princess suggests that Kine sit down to rest, but he refuses, believing it would be disrespectful to her. Even so, he remains fully vigilant, which brings a profound sense of security to the protagonist. The princess comments on how beautiful the world is, and Eugene makes a joke about her poetic tone. She recalls that in the original story, Eugene found Kine's protective behavior to be rather sinister and maintained a fierce rivalry with him. Now, however, Eugene simply seems amused by the situation. Back in her quarters, the princess praises Kine to Eugene, saying he is a very good man. Sir Volton remarks that Her Highness is the only person in the palace who thinks so and calls her strange, but the princess defends herself, saying she is just being sincere. Around the palace, serious rumors concerning the princess are running rampant, including lies that she is on the verge of death or that she has been banished by the emperor. However, due to the secrecy and loyalty of her staff, none of this gossip manages to make its way past her bedroom doors. Irene serves hot tea to the princess, deeply worried about the sheer amount of cruel gossip spreading on the outside. She desperately hopes her mistress won't find out about any of it, while wondering if she is just overthinking things. Lying in bed, the princess reflects aloud that the world is so beautiful it feels like a dream she never wants to wake up from. Upon hearing this, Irene and Linny fall into a total panic, thinking the princess might be preparing to pass away. Linny breaks into tears and begs the princess not to carry such a heavy burden all by herself. Completely failing to understand the maid's dramatic reaction, the princess simply thinks about what a wonderful day she had alongside two gorgeous men and laments not having any souvenir photos. To make up for it, she decides she will start keeping a diary to leave a record of her experiences. A desperate Linny reports to the housekeeper, Emma, that the princess spoke of leaving something behind and suddenly decided to start a diary, crying heavily as she recounts the situation. Emma panics as well, suspecting that the rumors of her passing might actually be true and that the princess wants to leave a trace of her existence before she dies. She notes that ever since Libercia grew closer to the maids, she has become deeply cherished by everyone there. Wanting to help in any way they can, the palace staff decide to mobilize and provide the finest notebook and writing materials so she can write in her diary with the absolute utmost comfort. The princess receives the 7th memory of the original Libersha, which shows the princess at 7 years old as a very studious girl. Unable to sleep, she decides to walk through the gardens at night, realizing that over a month has already passed since her arrival in this new world. She feels frustrated that she still hasn't managed to leave the main palace to find the other characters on her list, seeing as the elderly court physician made a massive scene and strictly forbade her from going outside due to her health. As she walks among the foliage, she spots Kine amidst the greenery, who offers a bow. Realizing he is incredibly shy and won't initiate a conversation on his own, the princess takes the initiative, approaching him with a warm smile and wishing him a good evening. In the original book, Kine was a workaholic who rarely went out. He met Ariel by pure chance when he went to deliver a report, and she was crying over a tiny paper cut, a scene the protagonist found ridiculous at the time. She reflects that Kine has always been a serious and innocent man, carrying a melancholic expression because he is, in reality, a half-vampire. She laments that he suffered such a grim fate in the original work and criticizes the author's cruelty toward someone so handsome. Thinking about his sensitive temperament, she worries about the possibility of the crown prince intimidating him once again. Standing before him in the garden, she tells him that above all else, she wishes for him to avoid getting hurt or dying, thinking that seeing a beauty like his harmed would break her heart. All of this, of course, while imagining him shirtless. A bit cheeky, aren't we? Confused, Kine says he didn't quite understand her comment. The princess covers up her embarrassment and lies, claiming she was just thinking out loud, wishing for him to always remain healthy and handsome to brighten her days. Kine accepts her reasoning and asks if he may tell her an old story. With her consent, he narrates the life of an unwanted child who was born and raised in isolation, without friends or any form of human warmth. He continues, saying that one day, this child managed to make a friend and tasted the joy of having someone close by. However, that so-called friend demanded his flesh, his blood, and his heart in return. The child willingly accepted because he considered him his only companion, only to discover much later that he had merely been used by him. Kine asks the princess for her opinion on how the story ended. Failing to grasp the hidden meaning behind the question, she decides to give a standard, straightforward answer. She states that the child should have run away immediately before they could steal anything else from him, arguing that a true friend would never demand such sacrifices. Impressed by her conviction, Kine addresses her as Your Highness. He gives a solemn bow and announces that the following day, he and Sir Volton will accompany her, guaranteeing that everything will go exactly according to her wishes and that no one else will get hurt. The princess doesn't quite understand the solemn vow, but assumes it is a display of loyalty due to her abilities as a sword master. Thus, she bids him good night, eagerly looking forward to the next day. The next day, Rox finally gives in and grants Libersha permission to go outside, after being firmly pressured by both Eugene and Kine. Rox hands over his final recommendations and asks her to walk slowly, without any rush. The princess thanks him and, thoroughly thrilled, sees this as the perfect opportunity to interact more closely with Kine and Eugene. The princess confirms that the two will accompany her and calls for the housekeeper, Emma, asking her to prepare 2 sets of casual clothes. Upon seeing the young men dressed in more casual attire, she completely swoons over their striking beauty. Eugene comments that they only managed to secure the permission from Rox because the Duke insisted and begged him extensively the day before. Kine looks completely flustered by the revelation. Looking over at Kine, the princess notices he is offering a very shy, restrained smile. She goes into total ecstasy over the beautiful sight, finding his expression absolutely adorable and wonderful. Enchanted by Kine's smile, Libersha gains total determination to resolve his personal issues immediately, fully convinced that he has finally opened his heart to her. Kine recalls the pain of being isolated due to his vampire blood and how much he hated himself for feeling weak when seeking affection, channeling that vulnerability into hatred for Lavrov. Initially, He intended to use Princess Libercia merely as a pawn in his plans for revenge. However, everything changed when he saw the reflection of his late mother in the princess's eyes. Libercia was entirely unpredictable. He realizes that her warm nature captivated him, while her melancholy smiles caused a tightening in his chest. He remembers the previous night, when he overheard her lamenting how time was passing too quickly without her being able to leave the palace, making him realize that beneath her apparent cheerfulness lay profound suffering. Kyne remembers that the princess wanted to visit Blanchett Square, an idea Rox and Ripley rejected, believing the market was far too bustling and dangerous for her frail health. Since Sir Volton was the only one to energetically defend her, sparking an argument, Kyne decided to intervene and approach the princess directly during the dead of night. Kyne recalls when the princess begged him not to get hurt or die. The request caught him completely off guard, since he had never been physically harmed and no one had ever cared about his well-being. Feeling deeply touched yet simultaneously frightened by such proximity, he reacted on impulse and revealed his tragic past in an attempt to push her away. He reflects on the response he received from her, that a true friend does not demand sacrifices and that the child in the story should have run away. This direct perspective caused Kyne to stop blaming himself. Comforted by the princess's words, which quieted his self-reproach, he makes a personal commitment to protect her and remain by her side for as long as she lives. The next morning, Libercia wakes up early, determined to take action to prevent Kyne's tragic fate. She reveals that she chose the early hours of dawn because it is the period when she usually vomits blood due to her illness. Since her memories never surface at daybreak, this is the safest time to move around without interruption. She walks through the courtyard, knowing the Duke usually trains there. The princess finally locates Kyne in the courtyard. Surprised to see her alone, he questions her presence, and she covers it up by saying she didn't expect to run into him. Demonstrating his care, Kyne steps closer and places his own cloak over the princess's shoulders to protect her from the cold wind, a gesture that leaves her completely enchanted. Oh, my goodness, how sweet. When questioned about the reason for being awake so early, she makes up a story about having a nightmare and being unable to fall back asleep. When she returns the question, Kyne reveals he was training. The princess celebrates the success of her plan in her thoughts, preparing to guide the dialogue based on the information she possesses from the original book. Kyne clarifies that he was training his mind, not his body. The princess questions whether the mind truly strengthens through training, and he hesitates, unsure of how to answer. Enchanted by the Duke's voice, the protagonist decides to use her knowledge of the book to strike the right chord and bring peace to his heart. She ponders that the mind cannot be measured or seen, and asks if there is something specific troubling him to require that kind of effort. Kyne confesses that there is, but downplays it, saying it isn't important enough to worry her. The princess responds sweetly that if something is weighing heavily on his thoughts, he should simply rest. The protagonist draws a parallel to the original story, remembering that Ariel told Kyne exactly that to rest, but only because she found physical training exhausting. However, the book revealed that this simple display of care was the greatest comfort Kyne ever received in a life marked by loss. Looking at the Duke, the princess states with conviction that she had always wanted to say those words to him. So cute. The princess repeats that Kyne ought to rest, asserting that she has always wanted to say those words to him. Kyne counters that she knows absolutely nothing about him. She accepts the point, but steps closer and touches the Duke's cheek, pondering that knowing someone and understanding someone are not always the same thing. Internally, the young woman melts over Kyne's melancholy expression, comparing him to a puppy in the rain and checking her urge to caress him even more. Even though she has to stand on her tiptoes due to his height, she feels she has fulfilled her fan fantasy. Saying her goodbyes to return to her quarters because of the cold, she celebrates the success of her mission. Now that she has given Kyne this affection, he will no longer react to the exact same phrase in the future, as if Ariel were his sole savior. Left alone, Kyne is intrigued. He reflects that not even the Emperor knows his anguish, yet the princess acted and smiled as if she knew exactly what he was going through. He realizes that those words penetrated deep into his heart precisely because they were spoken by her. Hidden among the branches, Eugene watches the scene and lets out an ironic chuckle. He reveals in his thoughts that he was guarding the princess's safety in secret because she seemed to want to be alone. Eugene recalls that he tried to alert her by shouting for her to wait when he saw her head toward the Duke in the dead of night, but she was so distracted that she ended up not hearing his call. Eugene walks up to Kine and confronts him. Kine asks if he was spying, and Eugene replies that it doesn't matter. He points out that the Duke was so focused on the conversation that he failed to notice how frail the princess looked, far beyond a simple nightmare. Next, Eugene asks if Kine has heard the recent palace rumors that Her Highness is on the brink of death, leaving the Duke shocked. Connecting the dots, Kine recalls the princess's melancholy questions about whether the mind grows stronger through pain. He realizes that she was able to understand him so well because she was already accustomed to her own suffering. Overcome with guilt for being a fool and not realizing the gravity of the situation sooner, he understands that her state of health is much more serious than they had imagined. Later at the palace, Linny excitedly displays various options of commoner clothing for the outing and suggests one that would suit the princess. Proud of the compliment to Libercia's beauty, the protagonist asks the maid to choose the best outfit, praising Linny's good taste. The princess focuses on the preparations to meet Evian, counting on the support of Emma and Irene. Emma questions the reason for so many changes, and the princess replies calmly that it is useless to keep holding onto those things. She explains in her thoughts that she asked for help to sell off the princess's personal properties, including her fashion salons. She justifies the decision knowing that, although Libercia's salons are currently popular among the noblewomen of the capital, Ariel will soon discover a hidden salon in an alley that will become the empire's next big trend, bankrupting the princess's businesses. Determined to convert everything into hard cash, while there is still time, Libercia plans to amass an even greater fortune to give to Evian, convinced that there is no better way to build a strong bond of friendship than by offering financial support. I'm loving how Libercia is changing things up. I wonder how Ariel and Lavrov will end up in the end. The princess asserts to Emma and Irene that it is useless to keep holding onto her belongings. Interpreting her words as a sign that she is getting rid of everything because she is going to die, the maids are left deeply shaken. Libercia tries to calm them down. Today is a very important day, and she gets dressed in commoner clothing for the secret outing. Upon leaving the room, she encounters Kine and Eugene wearing casual clothes and is absolutely beaming with joy to be going out with the two of them. She says goodbye to Linny, expressing her regret for not being able to bring her along and promising to include her next time. On the way to the city, the princess recalls the events of the original book. She remembers that Ariel was pure, naive, and cried easily. In a single day, she managed to catch the attention of secret guilds and win over Jane and Evian without doing a single thing. Libercia mocks the simplicity of the original plot, but is relieved that she won't have to look very far to find the person she wants. Upon arriving at Blanchett Square, Eugene asks the princess to stay close. She heads toward a commercial establishment to submit the documents and sell off her fashion salons. Once there, the notary is dozing off. She then slams the folder onto the desk and coldly demands that the payment for the sale be made in hard cash and jewels, and quickly. The man is left intimidated and tense, wondering if she is a high-ranking royal servant and if this transaction is dangerous. The princess thinks to herself that she must not act with kindness in these bureaucratic situations to ensure everything goes smoothly. The man hesitates and asks if she is the legitimate owner of those establishments. The princess slides her finger along and displays the imperial signet ring, confirming that she is. Recognizing the royal jewelry, the notary rushes to speed up the process immediately. But before he leaves, Libercia asks if he knows of a place called the Black Cave. After concluding the transaction, the princess returns outside where Kine and Eugene were waiting for her. Eugene asks worriedly if everything went well, or if anyone gave her a dirty look or mentioned any rumors. She is left thoughtful, aware that Libercia was always surrounded by gossip, and not knowing which specific rumor he is referring to. Eugene decides to change the subject and invites her to continue with their stroll. Faced with the noisy and lively bustle of the market, Kine gently asks if there is a specific place she would like to visit. Charmed by his courtesy, the princess asks that, for that day, instead of calling her Your Highness, the two of them start calling her Lisha. Kine hesitates for a moment, but gives in and addresses her by the nickname Lisha. Libusha suffers a heart attack of pure infatuation. Right after, Eugene repeats the nickname and asks where they are heading next. Completely on cloud nine, with the beauty and charm of the two young men by her side, the princess tries to control herself internally to avoid having another nosebleed from so much excitement. She announces that she wants to go to a place called the Moonlight Garden. Eugene notices how pale she looks and suggests returning another day. Kine, worried, asks if she is referring to a bar. The princess insists, saying that she is perfectly fine as long as she is with the two of them. Once settled at a noisy table inside the tavern, the princess observes the lively atmosphere and the clinking of glasses. Kine asks the reason why she wanted to visit a place like that. Since she read the book, she knows the drinks there are delicious, so she makes up an excuse that she simply wanted to try them. Examining the options, she decides to order a small glass of the most popular drink, the Moonlight Liquor, just to have a taste and avoid the risk of getting drunk, despite her internal desire to try everything on the menu. Eugene and Kine comment that although the commoners do not recognize Her Highness, it is dangerous to let her place the order alone. They notice her enthusiasm since this is her first time out in the open, but they recall that the amount of blood the princess has been coughing up has increased significantly lately. They agree to speak quietly to keep her from overhearing the rumors going around about her. Left alone for a moment, the protagonist delights in the sweet and bitter scent of the alcohol. Suddenly, Eugene fixes her hood, warning her that it is slipping, and pulls it forward playfully, which greatly amuses Libusha. Taking advantage of the moment of closeness, Eugene suggests that she start calling him simply by his first name, Eugene. Right after, Kine also mentions that, if she agrees, he would like her to call him by his first name as well. Deeply touched and crying with emotion on the inside, she accepts and thanks them. As a child, the original Libusha was never allowed to mingle with others, make friends, or have desires of her own. The sound of men talking at the bar breaks the mood. A man spreads a rumor that the evil bitch of a princess is dying and coughing up blood, and that she is allegedly trying to commit suicide after having gone mad. He claims to have heard the information directly from Annie, who is part of the royal medical staff. The man begins to celebrate boisterously, saying she would be doing everyone a favor if she just hurried up and went to her grave. Outraged by the insults against his precious Libusha, Eugene loses control, lunges at the man, and starts a bar fight, causing people to cry out for the guards. All of this happens while Kine gently strokes our dear princess's face. Wow, I absolutely loved that. Kine notices how late it is getting, and while the battered man begs for help, suggests to the protagonist that they head back. I actually laughed here, haha. She peacefully agrees, while Eugene tosses the slanderer aside. From afar, a man named Harris observes the scene and notes with great interest the presence of Princess Libusha, accompanied by Sir Volton and Duke Eirik. He smiles maliciously upon seeing that, even after hearing others wish for her death, the princess keeps smiling as if nothing had happened. Harris expresses a sadistic desire to make her cry, but he is interrupted by a certain someone who questions him for trespassing on his private space and asks if he has a death wish. Harris tries to act friendly, but the other man rejects the approach, warning that Harris looks like a pervert who enjoys seeing others cry and reminds him that he has a habit of killing people whenever he secures a romantic match. The man denies the accusation, saying he has never had a romantic match and would never waste time falling in love with a target. He coldly concludes that there is little reason to love someone who is already dying. Back on their way, Libusha reflects. Kine had covered her ears during the commotion at the tavern, but she discovered that Eugene had gotten into a one-sided fight against the men bad-mouthing her at the bar. Far from being frightened, she found Eugene's fury and appearance extremely attractive and hot. Geez, Libusha, is there anything else on your mind? She confesses to herself that she isn't upset by the insults she heard, because seeing Eugene get angry on her behalf and having the two of them by her side makes her immensely happy. However, Eugene's absolute silence since they left the bar begins to make her anxious, fearing she might have done something to offend him. She decides to ask if she said something wrong. Eugene looks at her and, addressing her as Princess Libersha, demands to know why she didn't simply get angry at the offenses those men uttered. Libersha replies indifferently that she had no reason to get angry, as the incident was of little importance. Eugene fires back, saying that those men's words were extremely insulting toward her. Internally, the protagonist ponders that she loves Libersha, but recognizes that she was a true villain in the original story. Even though she herself, in her current life, hasn't committed any of those misdeeds, she prefers not to invalidate the past of the body's original owner. Therefore, despite not liking to hear such insults, she cannot bring herself to get angry, as she does not want to disdain the life the original Libersha lived. Libersha already knows that the rumors will never disappear anyway. She pouts and says that if she were to pay attention to every single piece of gossip, she would end up fainting from a lack of energy, and that she doesn't want to waste the little time she has to enjoy her life as a fan. Eugene refuses to accept this, asserting that she only says that to try to convince herself, but she insists that she is genuinely happy. Faced with his denial, she begins to think that Eugene is drunk and emotional because of the alcohol, finding the situation a true rarity. Ah, how cute. Eugene shifts the focus and drops the fact that she isn't taking the painkillers Rox prescribed her. She justifies herself mentally, saying that she doesn't feel any pain at all. Anguished, Eugene demands to know why she never takes an insult as an affront and acts as if she deserves to be treated that way, asking how she can torment herself so much. Seeing his despair, Libersha concludes that Eugene's alcohol tolerance is extremely low and panics, deciding never to let him drink again. Eugene approaches tremblingly and asks how she can smile like that knowing she is going to die soon. Kine intervenes sternly and tells him to stop it. Confessing that he cannot bear to watch her go through this, Eugene breaks down in tears and gives the protagonist a tight hug, causing her to let out a gasp of surprise. Libersha turns completely red, ha ha ha. While trying to calm herself down in the embrace, she is dazzled by Eugene's cologne, feeling like she is in heaven upon noticing that she is touching his toned abs. She begins to feel dizzy with her heart racing, thinking that her heart is going to stop right then and there, and that Dr. Rox lied about the symptoms of the illness. She practices asking him to end the hug once they get home, but she cannot manage to say anything out loud. Eugene begins to regain his sobriety and, embarrassed, releases the hug. He apologizes for daring to speak to her that way and for holding her so tightly, saying he deserves the death penalty for it. Libersha grabs his collar and thanks him deeply for all the affection and concern. Right after, she gets dizzy looking at Eugene's chest and her heart rate spikes. To avoid further embarrassment after such an intense moment, she decides the best thing to do is to fake a faint. She stumbles and loses consciousness in Eugene's arms, who falls into a panic and screams for Her Highness. Suddenly, Kine notices something approaching Eugene and Libersha's direction. A stone cloaked in magic. He quickly draws his sword and deflects the blow with his magic, protecting his princess. Kine then spots a mysterious man in the shadows of a house just ahead. It is Harris, who looks disappointed to have missed the target. Later on, Libersha speaks with Rox. She requests that the doctor prescribe her a moderate-strength stimulant that can be taken periodically. She explains that she lost consciousness again the previous day, and that, since the fainting spells are becoming more frequent, she cannot continue like this. Rox warns that Her Highness must not force herself to stay awake. He explains that with her body growing weaker and weaker, fainting is merely a defense mechanism to protect her. Libersha says she has an excellent reason for needing to stay awake. She confesses to the doctor that the day before, she committed an inexcusable act and ended up becoming a burden. That is when Eugene bursts into the room. She berates herself for having drunk so much, remembering that her initial intention was only to fake a faint, but she ended up actually blacking out and forcing Eugene to carry her back. Feeling like a terrible friend, even though she enjoyed it, you naughty girl. She apologizes. Eugene kneels and demands to know why she views herself as a burden. Faced with his gaze, she begins to confess her mistakes, mentioning that she dragged him around, forced him to drink, and made him listen to insults about her. Deeply moved, Eugene begs her not to act this way and asserts that she should not forgive him so easily. Seeing Eugene cry, the protagonist melts over his beauty, but forces herself to stay focused so she won't black out again. She reaches out, wipes away Eugene's tears, and affectionately asks him to stop crying, assuring him that everything will be all right. She smiles and comforts Eugene, saying that her feelings for him will not change. While she celebrates his looks internally, we journey into Eugene's reflections. He recalls the rules of the free knights, who lose their title the day their liege dies. Eugene admits he never liked wielding swords or considered himself a knight, but upon starting to serve the princess, he wished to see her smile and wanted to remain by her side, initially out of pity. Eugene accepts the strong bond of friendship that unites them and decides to take a step forward. With the protagonist fast asleep in bed, he makes a solemn oath in silence, promising to serve Libercia Ram Trial as his lady and master, acting as her sword and shield until the end of his days and placing her above his own heart and life. From afar, Kine questions the use of making a vow to someone who is asleep. Eugene smiles and replies that if Her Highness knew, she would certainly stop him. Eugene shares his own impressions, admitting that at first, he thought the princess was cold, though not as much as the cruel rumors claimed. He recalls that everyone viewed Libercia as someone without remorse, a vessel made of ice that refused to hold any emotion. However, everything changed the day she took the initiative to approach him, revealing herself to be a warm person. He confesses that he was blinded by society's gossip and expresses gratitude for the princess's existence. Her Highness never gets deeply involved with anyone. He recalls that her first approach was entirely devoid of romantic intentions, comparing it to a field of flowers in spring, which made him even more enchanted by someone with no ulterior motives. However, Eugene assumes he noticed later on the clear line she drew between them, understanding the boundaries he should not cross. Understanding that the princess never had anyone to truly defend her, Eugene states that his desire was to be that person by her side. He asks Kine not to tell her about the oath for now, as he knows her personality and knows she would start to worry. Amused, Kine agrees to keep the secret, thanking him afterward. Elsewhere, Daniel warns Harris not to sully the princess, alerting him that although the Vanuses seem indifferent, they are paying close attention to her. Irritated, Harris says he doesn't care about that and tells Daniel to shut up. Daniel insists he is merely worried that his ally will end up getting hurt. Harris fires back at the provocation with mockery and smiles maliciously as he thinks about the oath of the knight Eugene, finding that the situation is becoming more and more interesting. Well, we've reached the end of the chapters. For now. And there, do you want the continuation? So leave a like and a comment with a cookie. Until next time, my dears.